What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. The college football playoff rankings just got revealed in between two very exciting basketball games. Kansas, Michigan State just finished. Duke and Kentucky is on now as of recording this. Duke is up 17-15. Hey, you guys know when I recorded this video now, I am a big college basketball fan, so I will be watching college basketball too. Watching this game, it's a lot of fun right now, but had to stop to record this video. It's my week 11, top 25 video, along with my college football playoff ranking comparison and reaction. You're going to get all of that here in this video. Again, I'm revealing my personal poll and then reacting to the college football playoff rankings that just came out literally minutes ago, about half hour ago. So yeah, if you guys enjoy this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Help out the channel. I really do appreciate it. And let's go ahead and get right into revealing my rankings. But to starters, there are some teams that dropped out. Kentucky dropped out. They were 20th last week, as did SMU, Mississippi State, Fresno State, and Minnesota. All of those teams, of course, lost last week. So all of them dropped out of the rankings. Again, my rankings you're going to see over here on your left, and the college football playoff rankings you're going to see over here on your right. So again, you're going to see the trends for both too. So again, my rankings, playoff rankings. It says it up there too. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Both me and the committee agree that Arkansas is the 25th ranked team in the nation as of right now. They just beat a Mississippi State team that I had ranked at 23rd. They had ranked at 17th. So probably more of a reason for the committee to rank Arkansas, but nonetheless, by the way, my first five out, you can see them down there. Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, Utah, San Diego State, Iowa State are my first five out. Okay, back to talking about Arkansas now, right? So Arkansas, a team that's had some really good wins this year, right? But the losses that they've had, well, to me, they're to three teams in the top 15. And that gives you a sense of where I have those three teams. That's Georgia, Auburn, and Ole Miss. Two teams that definitely are in the top 20, or three teams, I should say, that are definitely in the top 20. Not bad losses from Arkansas at all. I think they're at 25. Pitt is at 24 for me. Again, Pitt has had some shaky performances this year. They looked very Pitt-like in the first half against Duke, whatever you want that to mean. They didn't seem to control the game, but finally did control it. And with all the losses that happened this week, I had to move Pitt up here to number 24. The committee has them at 21, and I don't have a huge problem with that. NC State for me is at 23. Notice you don't see NC State here. NC State is another team that, again, I'm kind of shaky on right now, but I still feel like it's a really good football team, and they get a huge opportunity this week. They play Wake Forest, so we'll see how that one goes. Wisconsin is at 22. They are back in the rankings. Again, I'm still not confident in this Wisconsin offense. Yes, they scored 52 points last week, but that was off of 4 Rutgers turnovers, I do believe. By far their best offensive output of the year, but still definitely some work to do on the offense for Wisconsin. And Penn State, again, you played Maryland last week. Again, it was a shaky win. No one really impressed last week, so shaky win for Penn State. I've decided not to move Penn State. I think they're going to stay at 21. Moving over to the committee side of things. Again, we agree that Arkansas is 25. Utah in at 24. Hey, I don't have a big problem with that. Utah's the top team in the Pac-12 South right now. Probably going to get to the championship game as well. Sure, go ahead and rank it. They finally have UTSA ranked. It's not high enough, in my opinion. You'll see where I have UTSA ranked later. But, hey, the committee finally has them ranked, and I think that matters right now. So they are at 23rd. San Diego State moves up 2 spots for the committee at 22nd. Again, they beat Hawaii last week. It wasn't super impressive as to why I didn't have them ranked. But again, San Diego State up here at 22nd. And 21st at Pitt. I've talked about it a little bit. I don't see that big a problem there. They were 25 last week for the committee. 21st, I think, is still a pretty solid ranking for Pitt. So 25 through 21. I don't have a lot of huge complaints from the playoff committee yet. Again, seeing from what they did last week. So again, my rankings on the left and the playoff rankings on the right. We're going to go ahead and jump into the top 20 now. And for me, 20 is Iowa. So again, Iowa kind of struggling to put up some points, right? Can't really put up the points quite yet. Again, only beat Northwestern by 5, which you really should have beat Northwestern by a lot more than 5. But for Iowa, a win is a win is a win. But to me, they dropped one spot because someone passed them. Yeah, that is Purdue. Pulled off another top 5 upset this week while beating number 3 Michigan State, a team that I think is hands down better than this Iowa team. I think if Iowa and Michigan State were to play right now, they would go, or Michigan State would go ahead and win that game. So Purdue, I put here at 19. Look, they have 2 top 5 upsets on the year, including this game here to the Iowa Hawkeyes, beating them just a couple weeks ago, probably about a month ago now, I'd say, a little bit less than. Anyway, they beat Michigan State. This time they get the glory of doing it at home, have fans rush the field, everything like that. So for Purdue, I think they absolutely deserve to be ranked. I was very surprised when I saw that neither the AP poll nor the USA Today coaches poll had them ranked. I was very surprised when I found out that had happened. Purdue definitely is worthy of a ranking. When you look at the wins that they have, and even some of their losses too, are you could argue that those losses are justifiable. Notre Dame, hey, that's a perfectly fine loss. Minnesota, Wisconsin, those are 2 very good football teams when they're playing well, right? So Purdue at 19, highest ranked team in the Big Ten West for me. We'll see if they can go ahead and win that division. They still do need a little bit of help in order to do so, but hey, not out of the realm of possibility. Baylor's here at 18. They dropped 4 spots after losing to an unranked TCU team. So for me, Baylor is kind of interesting this year, right? Again, no one really played super well last week across the board, maybe except the team that you're going to see at number 1. But overall, no one played super impressively. And again, this Baylor team was going in facing a TCU team that just fired their head coach in Gary Patterson. So to me, it's kind of an okay loss. It's a game that you have to win, sure. But in terms of when you look at it as a loss, it's not a great loss, but it's a solid. Like, am I making sense? It wasn't a great loss for Baylor, sure, but you only lose to them by 2. It's still a tough TCU team on the road. Baylor probably out of the Big 12 championship game picture, but still very much can help ruin someone's season next week, or this week, I should say, when they play Oklahoma. I'll be previewing that game on Thursday. Houston is at 17. Notice for the committee, you do not see Houston yet. They still don't have Houston ranked. And this is my first problem with the committee, but we'll get there. Houston, hey, it was a shaky performance against South Florida, but again, a win is a win. You stay in the rankings. In fact, you actually jump up 1 spot to 17. BYU, for me, does not move. They're at 16. They played Idaho State, an FCS team, and they're not a great FCS team either. They're now 1-8 on the season with the loss to BYU. I can't move them because it was a game that they should have won, and they did win. So yeah, BYU stays where they are at 16. Let's look at the committee rankings now. Well, would you look at that? I am a predictor of the future. Again, I make these rankings before even the AP poll comes out, much less the playoff rankings. Purdue and Iowa are exactly where I have them as well, and I think that is their rightful place. Look, Purdue and Iowa. Purdue beat Iowa, and then they have Wisconsin 18. So Wisconsin beat Purdue, and Purdue beat Iowa. Wisconsin also beat Iowa, so I'm fine with that ranking. Again, I'm still shaky on Wisconsin being in the top 20 right now, but again, I get the pattern that the committee has set to this point, right? That pattern is going to be important later, and it's another problem I have with the committee. We'll get there. Auburn, you see here at 17. Again, I'm one of the people that likes Auburn more than the average person, so I'm fine with that. NC State at 16. I'm a little shaky on that one there too. But again, based on where they had them last week, I am okay with it, right? They have some good wins on the schedule, some shaky losses on the schedule there too. But for NC State, all in all, very good football team. Again, they get a chance to prove it this week when they play Wake Forest. And yeah, again, you don't see Houston ranked. That's because the committee did not rank Houston. The committee has made things hard on Cincinnati. First of all, SMU, not going to be ranked. I'm totally fine with that. They just lost to Memphis. They dropped out of my rankings. Yeah, absolutely. They're not going to be ranked. But for, how should I say this? For for a team that is 8-1 right now, with their only loss being the Texas Tech, a Power 5 team on a neutral site, Houston needs to be ranked. That's just my opinion. I think Houston's a top 25 team. They're playing like it as well. Toon is playing great. Nathaniel Dell is playing really well for Houston. Yeah, I think Houston needs to be ranked. The playoff committee obviously is not giving the respect to the American Athletic Conference, not giving it the respect that it deserves. Because again, it's probably the best group of 5 conference, we could argue, right? Again, we can have this argument all day long, but at the end of the day, the playoff committee did not rank them. A poor decision in my book, but there's 20 through 16 from me and the committee. Moving into the top 15. Now, 15 is where I have Wake Forest. Losing on the road to North Carolina. Yes, it's justifiable. Yes, you were the underdog, but again, it's still a loss. And for me, there were other teams that did pass Wake Forest this week, and I wasn't too keen on Wake Forest being a top 10 team yet. Remember, I had Wake Forest at 11 last week. They dropped 4 spots. We know what happens now when Wake Forest plays a good team, and it's that they lose. And even North Carolina has looked shaky at parts this year, looked pretty good for most of that game. But we know what happens when Wake Forest plays some good competition is that they don't fare very well. They did score a lot of points. They were in control of that game, but they let it slip away. The defense is the issue for Wake Forest, and it's got to get turned around if they want to be where the committee thinks that they should be, right? Auburn for me is at 14th. You guys know how much I like this Auburn team. Yes, they have the loss to Texas A&M, but they have some really great wins, some really close games here as well for Auburn, including a close game at Penn State, a team that I think deserves to be in the top 25. And that's another one, right? Penn State not ranked by the playoff committee either. This playoff committee that needs to be a team that is ranked, right? You need to rank Penn State. I know they have the loss to Illinois, but I know they have the loss to Illinois. I know they've lost 3 straight going into the game against Maryland. Excuse me. But regardless, I still think that Penn State needs to be ranked. And I think that's a huge swing and a miss by the committee here too. Not even a swing, just kind of a look and miss. Caught him looking. Strikeout. The committee, you need to have Houston and Penn State ranked. You just have to. And UTSA, speaking of which, I have them 10 spots higher than where the committee has them here at number 13. Again, I think this team has the most underrated quarterback, running back, wide receiver trio, I should say, in the entire nation. And again, it's just because they do play for UTSA. Regardless, really, really good team. They're playing a high level of football right now, and they're one of the 4 undefeateds left, and that has to warrant some sort of reward. The reward they got this week was being ranked by the committee. The reward I'm going to give them this week is jumping into the top 15 at number 13. I think this is a great, great team. You can have them low if you want. I'm not going to argue with that, but 13 is where I have them. I have Ole Miss here at number 12. Again, in my opinion, Heisman frontrunner Matt Corral, or at least the guy that I feel should win the Heisman. I know people are going to talk about Bryce Young or Caleb Williams or CJ Stroud, all of which have had their shaky performances. I'm not saying Matt Corral hasn't had any shaky performances, but I think he's been the best player all year. So for Ole Miss right there, number 12, I think is a good spot. And Oklahoma State at 11, a very impressive win on the road against West Virginia. Very, very impressive win there. Held West Virginia to only 133 total yards. The defense has been the story all year for Oklahoma State. And again, November 27th, right? Circle that date because Bedlam is looming. Oklahoma State should be 10-1 heading into Bedlam, and that is going to be a huge game. Looking at what the playoff committee decided to do now, you have Ole Miss at 15. Again, I like Ole Miss a little more than that, but don't have a huge problem. BYU at 14. I'm starting to have an issue with that. What the committee has shown is they don't care about the bad losses, and they continue to show that through wake of Baylor at 13. Again, they don't care about the bad losses. They seem to care more about the good wins, which Baylor does have, including the Baylor win over BYU, right? Notice I have Baylor behind BYU because I just see that loss as something that shouldn't have happened, right? I absolutely don't think that loss should have happened. Both of the polls agreed with me that Baylor should be at 18th, but the poll that mattered has Baylor at 13th. I feel like Baylor needs to have at least dropped more. and maybe not drop behind BYU. But again, that's the precedent this committee is setting, right? We'll get there. Wake Forest at 12, dropping 3 spots. Again, I'm still shaky on Wake Forest even being a top 15 team at this point, but I can't argue with much there. They're now only 8-1, and still the top team in the ACC. So we'll see what happens there. Texas A&M is up 3 spots for the committee to number 11. A good win against a good Auburn team. Again, no real argument there. So moving into the top 10 here. I have Texas A&M at 10. The committee has Oklahoma State at 10. Just kind of flip-flop those teams. Same arguments. A&M, a good win on the road against a pretty good Auburn team, an Auburn team that you guys know I liked. That's why Texas A&M jumped Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State staying ahead of Texas A&M as of right now. But A&M and Ole Miss get to play this week. I think that's going to be a really interesting game to watch. And for Oklahoma State, again, circle November 27th. That's the big day around college football, right? Ohio State, Michigan is that day as well. You have Bedlam, Michigan State, Penn State. There are a lot of fantastic games on that day. But for Oklahoma State, they cracked the committee's top 10. All right, Michigan is here for me at number 9. You beat a mediocre Indiana team. Again, I know Indiana's had some injury problems, especially at the quarterback position so far this year. But again, you beat a mediocre Indiana team that hasn't looked great this year. You're not going to move up, especially with the way other teams performed in front of you. Again, no one performed amazingly, and that goes same thing for Michigan. They don't move. Michigan State is at number 8. This is where I'm going to have a problem with the committee. You see it over there. You see it. You know it's there. I will talk about it because it does not make sense to me. What does make sense to me is putting Michigan State ahead of Michigan, because not even 2 weeks ago, they met on the football field and Michigan State beat them. Now, did Michigan State look like the better team? That's arguable, but they still beat them. So Michigan State drops the game to Purdue. I absolutely feel like this is still a top 10 team, but for Michigan State, I'm putting them at number 8 over Michigan because of the head-to-head. Now, we will talk about that later. Notre Dame for me is at number 7. They handled the triple option and Navy pretty well. So for Notre Dame here, they move up 1 spot for me to number 7. Oklahoma, again, if you're on a bye week, I don't move you unless teams ahead of you drop or teams below you pass you. And for Oklahoma, you don't play, you don't move. It's as simple as that. So I've already talked about Texas A&M and Oklahoma State. Notre Dame is down here at 9. It's a top 10 team, that's for sure. Where you put them in the top 10 is absolutely debatable. Having it number 9, I have no problems. Again, Oklahoma, you don't play, you don't move. This is also the committee kind of punishing Oklahoma for not playing a complete game up to this point, which again, I have no problems with, right? This is probably the biggest problem I'm having with the committee right now. And it'll especially be clear when we look at the top 5, or at least it's going to stand out more, right? So Michigan State drops this game to Purdue. Of course they're going to drop, but I think the expectation was with what the precedent that the committee set, having Oklahoma State ahead of Baylor, right? Having Fresno State ranked ahead of San Diego State, having Wisconsin ranked above Iowa. Even this week, having Wisconsin ranked above Purdue, that's ranked above Iowa, right? Having Baylor still, even with that loss TCU, ranked above BYU because of the head-to-head, right? There's all these head-to-head things, and it's the precedent the committee set in the first rankings. So what happened here? Why is Michigan ahead of Michigan State? I don't understand it. Michigan State beat Michigan not even a week ago, while meanwhile, I'm just going to go ahead and move in the top 5 now so I can show you my point. Again, disregard my top 5 right now. Look at the playoff committee. Oregon beats Ohio State. Oregon is ahead of Ohio State. Do not tell me that games do not matter to the playoff committee, because they do, even games that happened in September. But games in October don't. Like, what? Michigan State beat Michigan. Why are they not ahead of Michigan? Both teams have the same record. Both teams have pretty comparable strengths of schedule. And you rank Michigan above Michigan State when they beat them not even 2 weeks ago. And again, the precedent is set here with the playoff rankings that Oregon is ranked above Ohio State, even though Ohio State arguably is playing better football right now than Oregon, but Oregon is still ahead because of the head-to-head win in September in Columbus. Playoff committee has got to figure it out, because if they're going to set this precedent and then do that with Michigan, here, I'll go back to it really fast. But if they're going to set this precedent with Oregon and Ohio State and then do this with Michigan and Michigan State, someone let a screw loose. Gary Barta, when he was interviewed, said, well, we think Michigan's the more complete team. I don't disagree with you, but games should matter. Up to this point, games should matter. And the precedent that the committee set did not follow suit in the room this week with this ranking. I don't agree with it. Will it matter in the end? Probably not. Both teams still have to play Ohio State. And again, both teams still have a way to get into the college football playoff. I just don't agree with it right now. But anyways, rant over. Moving into the top 5. For me, I have Oregon at number 5. Again, head-to-head to me is not everything. No one impressed me enough to really say, okay, well, this team should clearly be. No, there's not enough for me to Oregon. There's not enough for me, for Oregon to pass a team like Bama, Ohio State, Cincinnati. There wasn't enough for anyone to pass anyone this week. Now this week, or last week. Now this week, there are some big chances for teams to get, to pass one another in my mind. But for right now, I have Oregon at 5, Alabama at 4, Ohio State at 3, and Georgia and Cincinnati are going to stay 1 and 2. Ohio State moving up to 3. Yeah, shaky win at Nebraska, but again, you still win. If Alabama would have looked more impressive against LSU, I'm going to be honest, I would have moved Alabama above Ohio State and kept Ohio State at 4. But because Bama did not look great either, they're going to stay stuck down here below Ohio State at number 4. Everyone has seemed to show vulnerabilities except Georgia at number 1. Now looking at the playoff rankings, Georgia at number 1, Bama at number 2. That's where they had them last week. Can't really disagree with that. Oregon at 3, Ohio State at 4. There's the precedent set, right? Michigan State drops. Everyone else just seems to slide up a spot, and Cincinnati did the same thing there as well. Cincinnati just slid up a spot. Michigan slid up a spot, while Michigan State dropped below everyone. I don't agree with it. I think Michigan State needs to be ahead of Michigan because head-to-head should matter. But with the playoff committee, what they did, team lost, they slid everyone else up. So now Oregon occupies the 3 spot. Ohio State argues up the 4 spot, and you guys can argue all you want who should be ranked where and whatever have you. But again, with the precedent the committee has set, games that have been played on the field should matter, and to them, they do matter, unless you're in the glove state. That's all I have to say. Let me guys know what you thought about this week's rankings in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about my rankings. Maybe even leave your own rankings down there. Again, just my personal opinion video. And then there's the playoff rankings there as well. So, hey, appreciate you guys for checking in. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, do everything like that. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'm going to see all you guys tomorrow when I upload my playoff predictions and New Year's 6 bowl game predictions. Goodbye.